video only. So make sure the camera faces everyone in the audience, because I hope to involve everybody more than myself. As I said last week, I really think the strategy of this parak is to accumulate. You have to obviously go through the Gemaras, go through the Rishonim, Achronim, but L'maisa, there's a lot here, and sort of like you learn the concept, but then Bez Hashem, as we go to other Gemaras, Rabbi Yossi, Giri Delay, all this stuff is going to come up multiple times. So if you feel that you're walking away from the Sikha without clarity, that's okay, because we're going to come back to it, and come back to it, and come back to it. So I think it's good to do the Gemara in Chav Beis and Beis. As Hashem, I hope next week Rabbi Luban will be giving a short shir somewhere within Rabbi Yossi the Rabbanan. Details to follow. But then before you blink, it's already Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then maybe we'll start the parak again. But so I wanted to just read the Gemara on Chav Beis and Beis. I want to touch on 3 topics. See if I get to all 3. Last week I tried. I only got to 2. That's okay. So the Mishnah talks about Marchikin and Sasul and Shovech. You're separating this ladder from a pigeon coop. They should tichbutz a nemiya. Okay. So the Gemara says, Lema Sitzin do Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi Amar Zechov b'toch shelo v'zenot b'toch shelo. So again, another Mishnah, another Gemara over here mentioning Rabbi Yossi's din that seemingly al nizik laharchik. And there's a fascinating machlokas rishonim. I cannot not mention it. The Gemara ends up answering this Mishnah does fit with Rabbi Yossi. Afiyotei Rabbi Yossi. Amar Vashi Gavina Rav Kana. Rabbi Yossi Giri delay. There. So the Gemara says no. Rabbi Yossi could fit in. It's Giri delay. So the machlokas rishonim here. Rashi versus Tosos, which is really Bein Chanano. I'll start with Tosos. I assume ArtScroll goes with the, usually I think their Shita is the easiest pshat. I would think Tosos might be the easiest pshat here, in a certain sense. When the Gemara says, Lim Mastis and Delok Rabbi Yossi, Tosos comments, B'Shem Rabbeinu Chanano, that really this applies to everything before. But how come over here, saying Lim Matzanan Stam with Delok Rabbi Yossi? So Tosos comes up with the reason. Now, Rashi, just to contrast.
Only this Mishnah is not correct.
Sorry.
All the others.
Right? I take it back. I'm saying this by heart, without looking inside. But, right. Tosos makes the diak, I would say, more simple. Only over here on Chav Beis and Beis, we say not like Rabbi Yossi, Lema Asis and the Lok Rabbi Yossi. So Pshuta Pasha, that means this is the only Mishnah like Rabbi Yossi. That means all the other Mishnayos in the Parak, they fit with Rabbi Yossi. Masha Enkein, Rashi is quite madchik. Rashi learns Pshat, Lema Asis and the Lok Rabbi Yossi, the Pligi B'Sefer the Pirkin, the Tuvamili Ekad Asis and the Vadi Lav Rabbi Yossi. No, Vada all the Mishnayos are not like Rabbi Yossi. Lema Avzu the Sum V'Shovek the Lok Rabbi Yossi. Very, very major nafkamina and pshat. Are you saying all the other Mishnayos kathirith Rabbi Yossi? Because all of them you'll say are giri delay. And Tosa says, why are all the other Mishnayos kathirith Rabbi Yossi? Why are all the cases giri delay? So Tosa says, because what does giri delay mean? Tosa says, the hezek starting miyad. So all the other Mishnayos, now we didn't do all the other Mishnayos.
What does that do with Biyam?
Not miyad.
Okay.
It's a likely outcome.
So I was reading about Kollel delay the mahi shaita mishkacha chazeka. From that moment, like when you're makarav it, that's when it started.
Why did you say miyad then instead of
Okay, I don't know. right? Sounds like you guys are converses. But Lamaisa,
What is Giri delay? It's like shooting an arrow. It's not coho.
so okay. In Tosas's version, I don't know what Giri delay is, but it sounds like it has some principle that, look, without getting into, Rabbi Dr. Brigida said it very well, right? We need to learn a lot of this parak to be able to say something. Like there's a lot here, there's a lot of ramifications. I want to stick to the words as much as I can and not add anything to it.
Standing on a ladder.
There's a machlokas. One second, let me answer Rabbi Talmud first. There's a machlokas Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanon. So the Rabbanon obviously are more machmir in. It's also to be marachik. Rabbi Yossi is more mekel. He says all nizik marachik. But Tosas tells me when the hezek started, as soon as you put something there, it starts right away. So something like that, Rabbi Yossi's moda, that you have to be marachik. If it wouldn't start right away, for example, the case we did last week, Elon, the hezek there doesn't really come for years. The shroshim growing, hezek really impacting. So there, that's pasha. That Rabbi Yossi would say that's not giri delay, and you don't have to be marachik. But anything else, a lot of these other mishnayos earlier, which we didn't do, unless we did, but there Rabbi Yossi says, no, those are different. Tosas is saying, Rashi is saying, that no. Rashi is saying that really lots of mishnayos don't fit with Rabbi Yossi. That means he's not signing on that lots of mishnayos are giri delay. Specifically, the Gemara over here, even the Gemara over here says, let's say this is also not like Rabbi Yossi. To which the Gemara specifically here is answering, this is giri delay. That's just the math, the setup, Tosas is Rashi. Now, within this case itself, yes, we could talk about what exactly is giri delay. You know, it sounds quite strange. The guy's doing pretty much nothing. He's holding a ladder and it jumps from the ladder onto the fence, into the pigeon coop. Oh boy, Chagadya. But, which Gemara is about to ask with Skrama. But for some reason...
They argue about that also, Russian Tosfos?
About the Metzias of the case?
What is Giri delay?
So that I did see, that people explain. If you see Rashi here, there's three Rashis which are important. Rashi over here in Chav Beis, where he says, "Begiri delay bechitim ambam lo miyad gufel shabal bayis mamish." That sounds a little bit more of an expression of hezek than what Tosa said. The Rashi on Chav Hema Beis basically said the same type of thing. Rashi we saw last time too. Rashi talked about giri delay, that when you're washing your hands, it falls biyado mamish al tachton karila giri delay. And there's a third Rashi, that might be the most important Rashi. It's the Rashi in the Bais V'Aliyah that if you have most of Rashi's anywhere that quote it, that Rashi spells it out Rachel Beka Aktana. There's a Rashi in Baba Metzia Kuf Yud Zayin, most of Rashi's, if you happen to have younger Gemaras. So he has a line there, Avahechi da Adam Atzam Aziko, Vizorik Bo Chitzov, Modahu de Lo Gramav de Nezikanu, the Tifter, El Mazik Mamishu, the Adamu La Olam, Bin Or Bin Yoshan, Shogu Gemezah. So there, in sure Rashi Baba Metzia, and he's not just explaining the case there, he's giving you a klal. Rashi is saying that giri delay in Rabbi Yossi is Adam Mazik. Now that's a pretty high standard for what giri delay is. Tosas is standard, all it needs, I could put something by a wall, and it's going to eventually do damage. But as long as it started now, Tosas says that's called giri delay. Rashi sounds like he's having a more limited definition of giri delay, or maybe a stronger definition. That giri delay is Adam Mazik, is Kolcho.
What's the kasha?
I'm going to get to that in a second. The whole Gemara is multiple sukkahs. I'm first reading the first line. Leima sees the door of Yossi. So there you have Machlokas Rishonim, how to learn Pshat. You have Rashi, you have Tosfos. According to Rabbeinu Chananel, there's a Rosh on Tosfos' side. It sounds like, and I saw Mefarshim point out, that it could be a very yesodistic of Machlokas here between Rashi and Tosfos in how you define giri delay. is Gira delay an Adam Mazik type din, which is a very strong din, and that's why Rabbi Yossi is going to be Moda, because here you're Adam Mazik. Adam Mazik has to be Marchik. Seemingly anything short of Adam Mazik, you don't have to be Marchik. But Tosfos would say no. Moda Rabbi Yossi is going to be Moda to the Rabbanan. Whatever that din harchaka that the Rabbanan have, the Rabbanan's din harchaka is not a Mazik din. It's not when you're Adam Mazik, right? The cases we'll see soon, right? The cases Rabbanan are talking about, are many of them do not sound like any type of Adam Mazik. But those, whatever that din harchaka is, it seems Moda Rabbi Yossi to that din when it starts right away, even without being on a mamazik. That sounds like a pretty major machlokas rishonim, which comes out just from pshat in reading that line. Now, Rabbi Palgan, you asked about the follow. The Gemara asks it's a grama. Yeah, so that kasha sounds quite interesting.
That's why we didn't.
Right? Before I even get into the taichas, I want to point out two things. One first, the Stam of the Gemara's Kasha, and then the Shaka Retire of the Gemara's question and answer here. When the Gemara asks it's a grama, who are they asking on? I assumed everyone thought, until I asked the question, I assume everyone thought we're asking on Rabbi Yossi. We just said, Rabbi Yossi says here it's Gira delay. What do you mean it's Gira delay? It's a grama. Right? I believe that's how most of us script it. And I did find most Rishonim learn like that. But a couple of people just told me tonight, they saw there's a Rimagash here who doesn't learn like that. The Rimagash spells out beferish that this kasha is in the Rabbanan too. That means the Gemara is asking a question, how could the Rabbanan say over here that you have to be marchik? It's a grama.
Yeah, so it's planting a tree.
Oh, so that's a very interesting point, right? Right. According to Rimagash, it sounds like over here the Gemara is jumping on the Rabbanan asking it's a grama, right? Aren't half the cases we're talking about our chalkas is also gramas? Aren't the Rabbanan say even for gramas? Now, l'chara, that's why most Rishonim will say, no, of course in the Rabbanan, grama doesn't matter. We'll find lots of cases that are chakas nezikin, even though it's a grama. In Hilchas nezikin, we say grama nezikin is pater. But when it comes to our chaka, the Rabbanan say you're chayiv.
Because grama is like zaser.
Well, I'm about to get to the Shakarataria. That could be the Gemara. This step doesn't know grama nezakin is zaser. And yet, they still, according to most Rishonim, understand why in the Rabbanan you have to be marchik.
Why?
So it could be not because of the Isser. So I don't want to say things. Dr. McGee said he can't say things. But the wonderful pshat we like fighting with and playing with is all the Rosh Hashivas all start making up two dinim. There's Baba Kama, there's Baba Basra. So Baba Kama talks about Hesek. Baba Basra talks about some different types of laws. There are laws of Archakas Nezikin. So it could be Einoch Enami, Lagabi, Hilchas Nezikin, Gramas Pater, Gramas No Shaychas. But in terms of Chiv Harchaka, Dini Baba Basra, there's different standards of town ordinances. Not based on Hezek. Different din, Halchas Shchenim. So that din, Grama is not a Rabbanan, Grama doesn't bother them. It's only maybe Rabbi Yossi, especially if you learn like Rashi. Rabbi Yossi says, no, maybe I'll go after, Hilchas Shchenim. Hilchas Mazik, I'll talk to you. It's okay. You want to tell me it's Gira delay, it's a Mazik, fine. So that the Gemara is asking, you're a Mazik? No, it's not, it's Grama. So here too, this step of the Gemara, just even learning what the kasha is on, make nafkaminas. You're saying the Rachaka itself is a grama. But don't we find, David asked before, don't we find Rabbanan saying you'd be marchek by Elon?
No, over there, the hezek is coming out as a grama to get hezek. Not the Rachaka. Over here, the Rachaka is machmas, something that would be a grama. The animal coming onto the thing, and then we'll go be mazik, that's a different cheshbon. That's the
Interesting. Okay, well, explain. You have a nice chiddush. Here's
The only problem is that you're more makel over there than over here. The Rabbi Yossi holds here it's aser, and by the tree holds it's mutter. And the Rabbanon, why we're not consistent. The Rabbanon, Rabbi Yossi is mattered over there. They mattered the tree.
You know, I was wondering if the Gash's kasha, then it makes sense. That this is very good. I was asking now even on the Rabbanon, why would you have to mark it? Because it's a groma by the chaka.
it's an interesting chiluk. In other words, Lamais in this case is a different type of case.
Right.
Here, it's my ladder is not doing the hezek. The Nemiyah is doing the hezek. My ladder is a transportation for the Nemiyah to do the hezek. So it's a little different type of case. Perhaps you can play games. Yes.
He's not doing it.
Very geshmaka, right. Rabbeinu Gershon.
That works even Rabbi Yossi.
Right, that could be. Okay, well, let me jump one other point in here. Tosa sets up, what's the Sharkatar in the Gemara? Right, the Gemara answers back, Agramahu, Amar Tu Bar Masna, Zosamaris, Garmi Zakan Aser. Someone told me you're Medaik, right? Zosamaris is Mashma, this is the Makor. Right, we see from here that Garmi Zakan is Aser. And they say Zosamaris over here too, right? They say in a few spots. But there's a Gemara in the Makama, Kones. But I said it says Zosamaris over here too. But your deek was that here's the spot. It could be here or there. But it sounds like, and Tosa seemingly is going with this, the Gemara's Havamina thought that Gram Nizakin is mutter. So in the Gemara's Teretz, it says Gram Nizakin is aser. And Tosa spells out in the Karas Hakadaita, Kihechi, the potter. Just like I say, Gram Nizakin is potter. Hakanami de mutter. It's mutter for you to put your object near your friend's object, even though we know the result's going to be you're going to damage him. Right? We're not questioning what's going to happen. Okay, maybe we'll talk about the Nia case again. But Pashup Shad here, when we say, since we say, Tosa sounds like he's saying a klal, a general rule. Since I'm saying Gramim Nizakin is potter, Gemara doesn't right now know that Gramim Nizakin is also. Right now they think Gramim Nizakin is totally potter. They think it's also mutter, and therefore I'm allowed to put my thing all the way there. Don't be marked one iota. My thing is going to damage somebody else. I saw a lot of the Achronim ask, there's a Rabbi Chanan over here. First he asked from the after Eacha Kamocha, but then he asked from good old Baba Metzia. The halachas of Hashavas Aveda aren't just if I find my friend's sheep to return it to him. If I'm passing by my friend's house and he's away on vacation and I see something's going on that's going to mess up his property, I have a chiv Hashavas Aveda, halacha l'maisa, to do something. Hashavas Aveda doesn't just say to return his sheep. Practical Hashavas Aveda, in many cases, I see my friend's going to lose money. His what's it called? Auto he left outside, right? His chazdei leiv is sitting there, right? Your meats are roasting in the Florida sun. Mamish, Hashavas Aveda says you have a chiv. And there's a slap. Take his stuff. Don't leave for Rebbe Kaganov. Take his stuff and then put it away.
Here's my ishtamshus that's connected. If I have my item and your item lost, even if your item's $1 million and my item's $10, I'm going to save my item.
So that's Rebbe Chanan. So Rebbe Chanan says that even though, of course, it's Hilchos Hashavas Aveda, but over here, the grandest din Hashavas Aveda, B'chayacha Koden, Shalcha Kodem, that here you're allowed to say Al Nizik L'Harchik, but the Nizik distance himself. I'm allowed to live my life the way I want to live it. So Rebbe Chanan does say that. He says that classic, what we would say that doesn't apply.
That's only
So it is geared to way, but it's mostly.
Right.
According to the Rabbanon.
Right. That's a nice cheshbon. I don't know if he was working out the Rabbanon here too. He wasn't necessarily working the Ribigash.
Not according to the Ribigash.
Right. So then you need a new pshat, right?
No, that'll be good. So there's no.
Oh. You say which way?
He says the Mochanan, so then doesn't that make it good? So then the Kash of the Gemara is taka only on Rabbi Yossi, not on the Rabbanon.
Yeah, but I'm saying it won't fit with the Ribigash.
No. So I thought the Ribigash was easier. If you don't go with the Ribigash and the Kasha, why didn't the Gemara ask the Kasha on the Rabbanon? If you go through Ribigash, then it's good.
Right.
But according to everybody else who is not learning that way, so then Taka, why didn't they ask that Kasha?
Most of Shat, the Gemara is saying it's not geared any way. So it's a fashion.
So is there a case of hachakos that's not grama? Is there a case of hachakos that's not grama? Lo yachvar adam bar some bar chavero. It's
Right.
grama. What case is not grama?
So there they do say ko, to see that Gemara. They say ko mara mara. Every hoe,
Every time you
awakening the ground. I saw what I wouldn't necessarily drop a Baruch Ber, but it happened to be a conversation that a few of us had yesterday in the Beis Medrash. I just found it today. It's pretty cool, right? Someone brought back good public common memories, right? We all know there's an Isser to be mazik, right? Stifler has this famous piece, comments him enough. Isser to be mazik. Really, Rabbi Chanan's hitting on the same point. You know, there's after Achamocha, Shabbos Aveda. But when we say Grama bin Izakin is Asr, right? I think Rabbi Baruch Ber asked it like, you know, there's a Gemara in Baba Kama that says Grama bin Izakin is Asr. Gemara didn't know that here? It's funny. Grama bin Izakin is Asr. We know that? You think it's Mutter here? So Rabbi Baruch Ber has a nice Chakira. When we say Grama bin Izakin is Asr, what type of Isser is that? Is the Isser for a Grama the Isser for a Mazik? The same Isser that we have normally, I can't damage you. So if I damage you, I did two things wrong. Shulchan Aruch is going to say I'm going to have to pay for damages. But two, we also understand that you did an Isser. You violated an Isser. Right? And no one's going to say, look, I'm a high school kid. I'm in a destructive mood, so I want to go and destroy something. Right? The guy said it to me. He says, how much does the table cost? Look, I'll damage it and I'll pay. Everybody Roth, I'm glad you're laughing. Huh? Pitbull will have to deal with it. But, right? Are you allowed to do that? Of course not. You can't say, okay, I'll be mazik and I'll pay. No, there's an isser to be mazik. There's also compensation you have to do. So, but what about by grama? Grama, you're potter from tashlumin. And there's an isser, well, the Gemara's Hami, the Gemara's Maskana, there's an isser to do grama. What type of isser is that? So one might argue, it's not an isser. It's an isser to shemayim. There's some isser, b'dei shemayim, on grama. But, and if you say like that, then okay, so just because grama is asr, doesn't necessarily follow that you have a chi of harchaka because of it. Happens to be it's some din. Or Baruch Ber says, but if you say that grama bin zaken is asr also din mazik, Zosam Meres grama bin zaken is asr also din mazik. That's how Baruch Ber reads it. So if it's asr also din mazik, so then that's chayv and harchaka. Also you're patur for the damage. Okay, there's categories of when Bezdin come on you or not. But the Gemara is machadish that grama bin zaken don't view that isser as a side isser. Grama bin zaken asr is a mazik dika isser. And if it's a mazik dika isser, then you're chayv and harchaka too. Assuming that you need some mazik to be chayv you and harchaka.
On the first side, when you go ahead and you mash them, because you don't want it to come back as a toad next time. So
Not like
that's
that, a toad.
matana.
So when you Yotzi De Shemayim, Shai Luban gave a nice share 2 years ago on, right? So what's that din? Right, is that a chov or not? You remind me, I almost have to give a share about Shemitah, Boka. But, so there, right, they handle, if Shemitah is Meshamit, the Gemara in Gittin talks about you pay the loan. So, when I say Guvich, you say Lashon Matana. So they hak, is that a chov? Is that Matana? What is that?
That's not chiv d'ishmayim.
But there's a
Here's
P'tor.
chiv d'ishmayim.
Right.
Here's not chiv d'ishmayim.
Right.
If you
But
pay-
maybe that chiv de shemayim is the same way like the Isser. It could be it's not a chov.
It's not matana, so it's bo machmas the hezekah that you caused.
It could be it's bo machmas part of the tashlumim for the Isser min shemayim. So it could be like you're saying. It could be if there's some inyan yotzi de shemayim by grama, so you'll say hagufa. It's mistaver like Rav Baruch Ber's teretz. That's really a mazik din, and there's really some mazik payment. It's just in Bezdin they can't collect. It could be, but I wonder if you could say no. It could be it's also it's part of the din yotzi de shemayim. Whatever that iser is, that's what the chov is. Teretz says you can't have a chov in over here.
The chod, but bo machmas what?
It's the pater yotzi de shemayim. Okay, I hear. You're more pashut.
So according to Baruch, the Gemara always knew they chai b'din Yishamayim.
Right.
So what? It's
But so what? I mean, I'm be mechayiv harchaka. Okay, so this Gemara we're definitely going to come back to. There's no shilos when you get involved in all these hawks here. What is the switch in the Gemara? What is the machlokas? What's the Gemara's question on? Is the question on the Rabbi Yossi the Rabbanan? Is the question on all the Mishnayos, just this Mishnah? How do you define Giri? What's mechayiv the harchaka? Is it some harchaka din? Is it some mazik din? Okay, I think I threw out enough.
If the kash is on Yossi, and what's the kash on Grandma?
So you could learn it as a nice follow. That's what we're saying. That your how could you say it's Giri delay? It's a grama. And then your chavrusa kept on pounding me. I remember this a couple days ago. What's the answer?
It's not Kimta of the Mishnah. It's just that Zimna. There are times where
Right. I remember that too.
Right?
Yes.
And so then the kash would be, but even those times it's a grama. So therefore, what? Therefore, it's not Giri delay.
Therefore, it doesn't make sense to us
It's
be
even more
mechayiv.
far fetched.
Right.
It's even more far fetched.
Right. Doesn't make sense.
Trying to learn the kasha,
Yes.
not like the Rimigash.
Try that again. Yes. No. So that means the kash is not like the Rimagash. That means the kash is only Rabbi Yossi.
Rabbi Yossi.
Rabbi
This
Yossi
is
learns
separate
Rabbanan and Rabbi
from-
Yossi.
Separate from Rabbi Hanan. Rabbi Hanan
Okay.
thing was like, I don't know, I need to think that through again for another half an hour.
Right.
But for
It's a beautiful
besides
piece. It's
that,
right here.
Can you say that maybe the reason why it's not a kasha? Of course we know that Garmin is not is aser because they hold it to Ala Nizik Larch. It's
On
Al-
mazik
it's Al
lahaki, right?
Mazik Larch.
And everything is grama.
So and
Right.
everything's grama. So
Exactly.
of course it's so, but as opposed to according to Rabbi Yossi that he holds the Al Nizik Larch thing. So him it's not a chiddush to say that it's Garmin is aser.
So you're learning the other Rishonim.
Yeah,
You say only Rabbi Yossi because
according to
we know that grama is mechayiv.
you don't need to ask Kash on the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon is Pashut. Of course, Garmin Zaken is also. So that's why you need to be marching because it's connected. Garmin Zaken is the same.
You're saying the chiddush. You're saying the Gemara's mechadish in Rabbi Yossi, grama zaken is also. In the Rabbanan, they already knew it.
We already know because they hold Al Mazik Larchik
So that's interesting, right?
without having to get into these two worlds.
Right,
Of
but you're making two lanes. That the Gemara, right. The Gemara, Pashbat grama is some Yisod. So you're saying they knew the Yisod the Gabi the Rabbanan, not in Rabbi Yossi.
because it's totally an Al Mazik Al Nizik.
Okay. Let's like finish. Half a ball of Cholm. Newt, weren't we talking about this?
I actually came to the same exact
You can split the ball.
I'm telling you. I was hacking with Rabbi last night about step 3 and 4. Chavetz Chaim guy said you went too far. You missed step 1, step 2.
You went the mirror.
Oh, that's why I'm mamish puzzled now. From one zman in the mirror, I'm mamish puzzled.
Baruch Hashem. Oh, this is a super Gemara. Mamish super Gemara. Every step. I thought it was cool that you could mamish hack on every line. Like Masisa Rabbi Yossi, what's the Gemara's question on, and what's the Shakra Tire of the two steps?
It was because Rabbi Fleuden actually was the one who was more to the kasha. Why didn't the Gemara ask about the Rabbanon?
He didn't know the
Haka.
Gash though, right?
Right, I forgot. Right. He asked me. No, didn't you ask me that, Kash? Didn't you also ask me the Kash? Why didn't you just ask Ram on the mission? You asked me that.
Yeah, I forgot.
You asked me that. Yeah.
So immediately when he said it, they're like, okay, the pasha structure would be to say, okay, because Taco's only kasha and the Rabbi Yossi, now they're Rabbanon. So why? I don't know.
But this other way might be more pasha. The other way I was saying is because it's pasha. Their whole chiyur and chaka includes grama.
Who's whole
The Rabbanans. Rabbanans.
The whole chiyuv harchaka.
Includes gramas.
What do you mean?
Because most of these harchakas zikin cases could be gramas.
The Rabbanon hold in general it's
Al mazik. But even al mazik, their standard is not a Baba Kama type standard that I need to be a mazik on Baba Kama standards. I could be potter, I could be a grama, whatever you want to say about me. But that's nichlal. Harchakas zikin is if if your thing is causing damage to somebody
that
else.
world you see there's a difference between al mazik laharchik and harchakas and leachbar.
No, not mazik. Al mazik laharchik is a different din than Baba Kama.
All right, one more time. I don't know what I just said. When you say that that there's two different dinim of there's a lower standard of Roman Bizakin as being aser versus al mazik laharchik. Why would those two things be different?
Grama b'nizakin. There's Baba Kama dinim. How much am I chayiv you for hezek? When am I chayiv you for hezek?
Is it mutter or is it aser to cause hezek? what's this? You're saying
You mean the Shiloh where this Grumman is Aser and Mutter? Grumman for sure is Potter.
over here.
Potter is Hilchos Kodesh Mishpat
Then
HaMashich.
I'm also okay. Maybe this is tied in. When we say it's Alam, that it's Grumman Nizakin is
You cut the
Aser.
tape.
When we talk about Grumman Nizakin Aser, is that what about a Suffolk Grumman? Suffolk has it.
Oh, I don't know this yet.
What do you mean? That's what the Gemara is talking about.
Oh, Suffolk. In this case.
This case is Suffolk
Every
Grumman
case is
Nizakin.
Suffolk. I don't know.
So what's the Gemara is saying that Suffolk Grumman Nizakin is Aser?
Suffolk. Every case is Suffolk. You're right. This case is Suffolk.
What's we're saying? Yeah. Right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I don't know. There's some sukkah in the middle of the parak. They all hack Suffolk.
This is the case. That's the case. So we're talking about a case where I'm putting my ladder here because one in a million chance
Pop goes the weasel.
that this weasel's jumping on Mamish Shas Maisa, and that you're telling me is usher to do. It's usher for me to put
Rabbi
my ladder
Silverstein,
here. 'Cause
you know,
maybe
it's not only you that have to worry about the weasels. They were worried about this years ago. And Mama said, I heard the case. The guy saying, you know, that'll be, how much does the table cost? You know, how much does it cost?
I think you could go to some places, no, and pay money to break stuff.
Yeah. It's a new thing. Right. Crazy generation.
If you want, you could throw axes, you could break stuff.
That's how this
Really? I think I feel
Really? Your father talked about this?
I asked him he mentioned some pasa to use your anger to do that, whatever.
Because it's in your anger.
Hashem did it.
Right.
So,
Ooh, it's a mavayim.
I asked him about it a couple of years later. I was saying it's also what he said, and he quoted the same line.
Wow. Okay, I gotta run.
All right.